The news hitting the gun community today feels almost unreal. Across America, firearm owners, manufacturers, and constitutional advocates are reacting to a development that could redefine the National Firearms Act itself. For decades, suppressors and short-barreled rifles, known as SBRs, have been tied to one of the most controversial taxes in U.S. history, the $200 federal stamp. But today, in a stunning move, Congress just passed a nationwide block on suppressor and SBR tax restrictions. That's right, the very system that has regulated these items since 1934 has just been shaken to its core. But what exactly happened? What does it mean? And why are people calling this the most significant firearms ruling in nearly a century? Let's break it down. Late last night, Congress finalized a provision eliminating the $200 tax requirement under the National Firearms Act. The move came as part of a broader reform package that slipped through without the usual partisan roadblocks. For decades, this tax stamp was considered untouchable, a relic of 1930s legislation designed to discourage ownership of certain firearms and accessories. The result? Gun owners across all 50 states can now legally purchase, build, and transfer suppressors and SBRs without paying that federal fee. The timing couldn't have been more unexpected. In the past, similar attempts failed repeatedly in 2017, 2019, and again in 2022, often blocked in committee or killed through last-minute amendments. But this time, the votes were there. The momentum was unstoppable. Inside the ATF, reports suggest quiet panic. The agency collected over $43 million in NFA tax revenue last year, with suppressors alone accounting for nearly 3/4 of that amount. Now, that stream has vanished overnight. With it, the entire legal justification for the registry itself may be crumbling. To understand why this change is so seismic, you have to go back nearly 90 years. The National Firearms Act was upheld by the Supreme Court not because of its control measures, but because it was classified as a tax law. The government's defense has always been simple. It's not gun control, it's taxation. But when Congress removes the tax, that constitutional justification collapses. Legal experts are already calling this the domino effect, the moment when one pillar falls and brings the entire structure down with it. 3 separate federal cases in Texas, Missouri, and Oklahoma are now challenging the ATF's authority to require registration of suppressors and SBRs. Their argument is simple but devastating. If no tax exists, then Congress has no enumerated power to force registration. And without that, the ATF's entire NFA registry stands on shaky ground. Judges who once deferred to federal authority are now asking hard questions. If the NFA was justified solely under Congress's taxing power, what gives it legitimacy today? Can the government really maintain a registry of law-abiding citizens' property when there's no longer a financial or constitutional basis for doing so? It's a legal time bomb ticking loudly in Washington, and no one knows exactly when it will go off. Inside Congress, a second battle has already begun, one that could end the registry altogether. Multiple lawmakers are drafting bills that would eliminate the NFA registration requirement for suppressors and short-barreled rifles entirely. Representative Thomas Massey has taken the lead in the House with nearly 50 co-sponsors already signed on. In the Senate, Mike Lee is spearheading a companion effort, calling it a long overdue correction to a law that's punished the law-abiding for generations. Their argument echoes across social media. If these items are no longer taxed, they should be treated like any other firearm configuration. No forms, no fees, no waiting periods. And that's the vision behind the movement. Imagine being able to walk into your local gun store, purchase a suppressor or an SBR upper, and take it home that same day. No months-long approval process, no fingerprinting, no federal permission slips. The ATF's e-form portal, once infamous for its sluggish 8-month processing times, has already been quietly updated to show $0 transactions. Wait times have dropped to less than 30 days, and experts predict that within the next year, it could all vanish completely. If Congress passes full registry elimination, the days of Form 1s, Form 4s, and 9-month delays will become a historical footnote, a relic of a bureaucratic past. The implications are massive. Over 2 million suppressors and nearly 800,000 short-barreled rifles are currently registered under the NFA. Every one of those represents a law-abiding citizen who paid $200, submitted fingerprints, and waited months for government approval. Now imagine those same Americans finally being able to exercise that right freely, to build, modify, and use their equipment without fear of paperwork violations. A rancher in Texas could attach a suppressor to protect his hearing while hunting. A homeowner could configure an AR-15 with a shorter barrel for home defense without fearing felony charges. Manufacturers who once avoided this market due to compliance costs could now innovate freely. Economists estimate that deregulation could trigger a 400% surge in suppressor sales within the first year alone. Prices, which currently range from $400 to $800, could fall by nearly 40% as manufacturing competition increases. In short, more innovation, more access, and fewer barriers for ordinary citizens. But not everyone is celebrating. Within hours of the tax repeal, several lawmakers introduced counter-legislation to restore or even expand NFA restrictions. Senator Chris Murphy proposed increasing the NFA tax from $200 to a staggering $4,799 per item, a move critics call economic ties. Prohibition. Representative David Cicilline suggested adding an annual renewal fee for every registered suppressor or SBR, effectively turning ownership into a recurring tax. These proposals are backed by powerful lobbies, including Everytown for Gun Safety, Giffords Law Center, and the Brady Campaign, who collectively pledged more than $12 million to stop registry elimination. Their campaign is already targeting moderate lawmakers in swing states, with ads claiming deregulation will flood the streets with dangerous weapons. But gun rights organizations are fighting back just as hard. The Firearms Policy Coalition, Gun Owners of America, and Second Amendment Foundation have already launched counter-campaigns, matching the opposition dollar for dollar. Their message is simple. This isn't about crime, it's about constitutional rights.
Federal paper trail.
The National Rifle Association
state laws
has
still
shifted
apply.
its focus
So
to the
residents
Senate, pressuring vulnerable incumbents.
Someone who
facing
already owns
re-election
5
in
suppressors
pro-gun
can buy
states
10
to
more with
support
TF approval
deregulation.
process,
Behind the scenes,
no more
analysts
9-month
say the
wait
next
times,
few months
and no
will
more
determine
federal
whether
loan
this new
could
wave
increase
of
by
freedom becomes
400%
permanent law
legislation
or gets
to not
buried
only
under
restore the
procedural
$200
sabotage.
tax,
While
that could
Congress
tip the
debates,
scales.
the courts are
And it's
already
something that's
making
been
moves
quietly
that could
developing and
render
running
all of it
targeted
moot.
campaigns
In Texas,
in districts.
Judge Reed O'Connor has ordered full discovery into whether
FA
NFA
tax to
registration
$4,799 per stamp. Constitutional basis for NFA registration may no longer exist, something that's been quietly developing in federal courts, and asked government permission to exercise a constitution while everyone focused on Congress.
Judge Patrick Wyrick has gone even further, issuing a temporary
Federal
restraining
judges
order
have already
blocking
issued
ATF
preliminary
enforcement
orders
against a
acknowledging
small
that
manufacturer
a
who
gun
sold
owner in
suppressors
rural
without
Texas
paying the
can
tax
thread a
or
barrel,
registering
attach a
them. Each of
A
these
taxes,
rulings chips
and
away
block
at federal
registry
authority,
elimination,
and together
but
they
add
create
annual
what
renewal
legal
fees
experts
of
call a
$100.
circuit split, the
Representative
exact
David
condition that
Cicilline
forces
is
Supreme
pushing
Court
legislation to
intervention.
apply,
If the
so
Supreme Court
residents in
takes up
states
these
like
cases,
California,
and
New York,
most
everyone
experts say
focused
it will,
on Congress,
the entire
the
National
legal time
Firearms
presser,
Act could
and
be
protect their
reevaluated
hearing
for the
without
first
filling
time
out
in
federal
almost a
paperwork.
century.
The
The
orders
stakes couldn't be
acknowledging
higher.
that the
If the court
constitutional
sides
basis
with
for
plaintiffs
NFA
arguing that
registration
the NFA
may no longer
registration
include defender
has no
can configure an
constitutional
AR-15
basis
with a
without
10-inch
taxation,
barrel,
then every suppressor,
and Illinois
every
won't see
SBR,
immediate
and every
benefits
component under the
for
NFA
maneuverability
could be
inside their house
effectively deregulated
without an ATF.
nationwide.
But 37
That's why both
states already
sides
allow
are
suppressor
mobilizing now,
ownership,
because
and
whichever
42
side wins
states
this
allow
battle
SB.
will
All right,
define
big
American
news rolling in on
firearms
the
law
fight
for
to pry
decades to come.
suppressors
The
and
path
short-barreled
forward depends
rifles
on
free
time.
Because
If
competition
Congress
will
acts
increase
quickly
and compliance
formally
costs
eliminates the
R1,
NFA
the
registry,
so-called
the
one
lawsuits
big,
may
beautiful
become
bill
irrelevant.
included
If
a
Congress
huge win
stalls,
for gun
the courts
owners.
could
Means
deliver a
complete
far
freedom.
more sweeping judgment,
from the
one that
shackles
not
of the
only
NFA,
removes the registry,
a fresh
but
legal
questions the
offensive just
legitimacy
dropped.
of the
Constitutional
NFA
law.
itself. In either case,
So let's
the
walk through the
ATF's
plan
role will
for
never be the
maneuverability
same
inside
again.
their house to
Already,
navigate
industry
NFA compliance.
insiders
This
report
could fall by
confusion
30 to
within the
40%
agency as employees are
within
told to
fast.
halt tax collections
Senator Chris
and
Murphy
prepare for
introduced the new
possible
lawsuits
structural reform.
and what comes
Meanwhile,
next.
ordinary citizens
already know
are
the
celebrating
backdrop.
cautiously,
If it
aware
lands the
that
way its
challenges
backers
and
hope,
reversals
it
could
could
still
tear
come.
apart a
Social
massive
media is filled with videos of gun
Law
owners
Center
reading the
is
bill
coordinating
text for
with state
themselves,
attorneys'
realizing
regulation
that what they long
for gun
considered
owners who've been priced out of NFA items.
A piece of history
this represents access they've never filed lawsuits, challenging the tax elimination on procedural grounds.
That blurred the line between taxation and regulation. For decades, the National Firearms Act served as both a revenue tool and a gatekeeper. But now, that wall has cracked. This isn't just about
24-fold increase.
SBRs. It's about the fundamental question of government authority. Can the federal government regulate a right by calling it a tax? Can it maintain control once that tax is gone? Those are the questions being asked in courtrooms, newsrooms, and living rooms across America. What happens next will set the tone for every firearm debate in the future.
Where representatives haven't taken positions and significant Democratic caucus support.
And by the time they hit
every
the ground,
town for gun safety has allocated $12 million specifically to fund further NFA reform.
This is
on
not
the pro-gun side, Gun Owners of America, firearms
chapter
up in 2026.
Because
Industry
whether
groups
you own
like the National Shooting Sports Foundation roots pressure campaigns to matching those resources dollar for dollar. They're running targeted campaigns.
And remember,
in district, these aren't final rulings, but there's this argument that registration
serves. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for bullet bound.